hi folks, and welcome to the Writer's Bridge. We talk about platform, but we call it the Writer's Bridge because a platform is a thing you stand up on and yell at people, and a bridge is a two-way street between you and your readers, where you're going to meet them halfway. They have a clear pathway to come to you, and you have a clear pathway to go to them. And that's why it's the Writer's Bridge. I'm Allison, and my publishing path is that I sold a book that will be coming out in March. It's called 7 Drafts, Self-Edit Like a Pro from Blank Page to Book. There will be a companion workbook about platform, which we just decided like a week and a half ago. So now I need to write another book. I sold my book purely on platform and a solid query letter. I did not, in fact, realize that my agent had not read my laboriously put together book proposal until we started working on it together to polish it up to send out to the publishers. So I am firsthand experience that you can sell a book entirely on platform. Ashley has exactly the opposite experience.
I do. So my background is in figure skating. I was a synchronized skating coach and choreographer. I've been on skate since I was 2 years old in Canada. And then I left skating to focus on my writing. I wrote my memoir manuscript. My agent signed me based on the story alone. And now I am working to build my platform, sort of, reverse engineering it compared to Allison's path.
Yeah. And so what we want to help you guys with in this series of chats, we do them every other week. They're always free, and a recording will always be linked the next day. We'll send you out an email tomorrow with fun links and links to the recordings. We want to do it because building platform can feel really lonely, and it can feel like you're shouting out into the void. Last week, we talked about how Facebook is where your real friends are and how to use groups on Facebook to really raise your profile and become known as a helpful and connected person. We talked about on Facebook, post reasonably regularly, like weekly or twice a week, to your author page, but don't knock yourself out because nobody's really going to see it. It's more a case of building a gradual library of content on your author page so that when it does become relevant, you've got stuff already there and you don't have to do it all at once. And then we also last week talked about Instagram comment pods, which are direct message groups within Instagram where everyone in the group comments on everybody else's stuff. And it's helped a lot of us raise our engagement and have our posts seen by more people, because when Instagram sees your posts get more comments, it pushes it out to more people, even beyond the people who already follow you. If you're interested to know more about the comment pods, check out the recording of last week's meeting, which will come in a link to you tomorrow. And this week is the last week to sign up for comment pods. Laurel's asking in the chat, I don't think I ever saw a pod come back to me. If you have not seen yourself in a pod and you signed up, please email us, aawritersbridge@gmail.com, because it means I somehow missed you or screwed it up. So nudge me and I'll get you into a pod. I think we're having a good time in the pods, Ashley.
We are. We definitely are. Just double check your direct messages in Instagram. And if you were not connected with Allison on Instagram before, it may be in your requests section, which will be a blue text in the top right-hand corner of your direct messages. Just so everybody knows, when we're talking about direct messages on any social media platform, sometimes we just say DMs. So DMs and direct messages are the same thing. Just check there, because maybe you've already been invited to a pod and there are posts and people waiting for you there. So double check that and then send us an email if you're not in one.
And if you're just finding out about comment pods tonight, those group direct messages where we all comment on each other's stuff, there will be the sign up to link, the link to sign up for comment pods in the email that you're going to get tomorrow. And once again, really quickly, they are a direct message on Instagram where everyone comments on everybody else's posts who is in the message. And it's a way to engage. It's also a way to genuinely make friends on Instagram. And I'm really loving the people whose work I'm seeing in my feed now because they're part of my comment pods. Today, we are going to talk about writing for Twitter and Instagram and a little bit for Facebook. And most of all, we're going to talk about how writing on social media makes you a better writer overall. Because if we're going to put this kind of time and energy, if we're going to think of cool things to say and neat ways to say it, we would like that to benefit us as a whole. So not just likes, not just clicks, not just retweets, but also, oh, hey, I learned how to build a better sentence today. Or, oh, hey, I really love this 150-word mini essay that I wrote for Instagram and that says something meaningful and beautiful that I would like to share with the world. I've had pieces of what I would call micro flash nonfiction that I have originally posted to Instagram and that have since been posted to other places or published in other places. And what I love about writing for social media is that people trust us when we deliver value. And when we deliver the most value is when we're also doing our very best writing. And one of the great blessings of the giant, crazy swamp that is social media is that we get to practice writing every single day spontaneously. I'm going to take a quick minute and just share a couple of slides with you guys that are going to take us through some stuff about writing specifically for Twitter. And then Ashley is going to talk about writing specifically for Instagram. Why should writers be on social media at all? Like, what's the point? I mean, we can still reach our readers through newsletters. We can reach them through public speaking. We can reach them through writing an amazing book. But the reason I like being on social media is that I find that I see more stories in the world because I am actively looking for stories in the world. I am looking for things that I can see and that I can share with the people that I see on social media. And so it's a place for me to like actively start seeing more stories to tell. I also find that I write better sentences. When I'm practicing on social media, I'm practicing writing at the sentence level. And it really helps a lot to be able to really think through how can I craft this beautiful sentence on Twitter that will really show people who I am and what I'm saying, and that will make people want to respond to me. It's like a dialogue with the readers. I feel like social media is a low stakes submissions. There's no dislike button. There is only a like button. So if people like it, they click. If they don't like it, they scroll on past. And so it's like I'm submitting work constantly to the world, but with very low stakes and with a very low potential to experience rejection or hurt feelings. The other thing I really like is that it helps us gain readers. There are people, probably people in this chat, who the writing of mine that you know is primarily through social media. Maybe you've never read an essay I've published. Maybe you've never seen me in the New York Times or in a magazine or, read my previous book, but you probably see me write on social media. And that's a place to share my voice and to share my information about what I love to write about in a way that delivers value and that creates trust. Twitter is a place to practice good sentences. If you have never spent a lot of time line editing, Twitter is the place for you to practice line editing. So I am one of nature's editors. When I was a kid writing terrible middle school poetry, my preferred method for revision was I would write out the poem on my sheet of loose leaf notebook paper kept in my Trapper Keeper with a picture of a kitten on it. And then I would copy the poem over and over again, each time taking out any word that I felt did not belong until it was down to like what really belongs here. And I got to the point where I was doing enough editing that my work actually read like bad high school poetry instead of just bad middle school poetry. So Twitter is the same way. It is a place to put in 1 to 3 tight sentences, or to start a huge, long on purpose tweet thread that tells a whole story and sustains somebody beyond that initial hook to keep reading and hear what you have to say. Generally, you want to put your nouns or your strong verbs at the end or the beginning of your tweets, because it kicks it off strong when we have a concrete image or a strong verb, and it finishes with a nice little button when we have a concrete image or a strong verb. And I'm going to break down a sentence for you in just a second to show you more of what I'm talking about. Think through your phrasing. Twitter is so low stakes. It goes out there and poof, it's gone in minutes. Maybe people will see it, maybe they won't. But each time, write that sentence like you would like as many people to see it as possible. If today is the day you're going to go viral, you're going to be proud to go viral. Incidentally, I'd like to just quickly tell everybody how to go viral. But before that, I'm going to deliver next week's lottery numbers. Pretty much like that. So here we have a sentence. This is a sentence from a horror novel shared with the permission of the author, who has since made a better sentence. The corpses were bloated and covered with maggots and blowflies, which crawled in and out of the corpses as Tertzik approached them. Okay, so it's horror. It's pretty gross. I hope I'm not putting anybody off their lunch. Notice that it starts in passive voice. The corpses were. There's a strong image covered in maggots and blowflies and crawled in and out, but those images are buried in the middle of the sentence. Then we've got which and them, which are just kind of blah words. You know, sometimes you need them, but they're like a screwdriver. You don't want to put it on your table. You want it to do its job and move on. There's repetition, but the of the corpses is better in the second location. There's a boring verb, like approached is just not a great verb. And because it's as Tertzik approached them, we, the reader, are watching the character do a thing instead of looking through the character's eyes and experiencing the thing ourselves. Even when we're writing in third person and writing a novel, and especially when we're writing in first person and writing a memoir, as much as possible, we want the reader to be looking through our eyes. When we say, I thought, I felt, I decided, that reminds the reader, you are not this person. Someone else is thinking and feeling and doing this thing. And it pushes the reader back just a tiny little bit. To make this sentence better, maggots and blowflies crawled in and out of the bloated corpses. And so strong visual images are now at the beginning and the ending of the sentence. We've got our gross maggots and blowflies at the beginning. We've got our nasty bloated corpses at the end. There they are. They stick with you. They start the sentence strong. They finish the sentence strong. The verb is interesting, crawled, and yet it's not calling attention to itself. Like we don't necessarily want writhed or squirmed or wriggled, because that's a verb that says, hey, look at me, instead of look at the scene. And the point of view is inside the character. We are now looking through Tertzik's eyes and seeing what he sees instead of being told that we're watching him see something gross. So this takes us into good sentences for Twitter. And when Twitter, there are 4 kinds of posts that do really well, both in terms of getting attention and in terms of feeling good yourself to make them and have a good time sharing them. You want to think about a candy, a hand, a punchline, or a punch. We're going to see what all those things are. And with all of them, you want to focus on your writing voice. So this is a candy. This is Chuck Wendig. He is delightful. You should absolutely follow him if you get a chance. He has great things to say about writing. And what he has written here is, happy Tuesday. You were once a single-celled critter and then a fish and then a monkey. And now you're an ambulatory pile of bones and blood and tweets and burps wrapped in soft leather. You are an absurd, impossible, wonderful creature. Go do absurd, impossible, wonderful things. It's beautiful. It's funny, it's inspirational, it's exciting. It is very much Chuck Wendig's voice. He gives writing advice in pretty much this exact same voice. And it's like a piece of candy. Oh, this is something nice. It's sweet. It's not necessarily the most meaningful thing I'm ever going to read, but it makes me feel good for that moment. It makes me feel good long enough to click the little heart or maybe even retweet it. Then we have a hand. A hand is anytime you reach your hand out to somebody. You share something that you think other people will benefit from. It's like, here, let me give you this thing. So Erica Dreyfus, another person you should absolutely be following, if only because every other week, I believe it is, she publishes a whole list of opportunities that all pay and have no fee to submit. And so Erica is a fantastic person to have in your feed because she is actively giving her hand to you as a writer and helping you move forward in your writing career. A punchline. We all know what a punchline is. It's pretty simple to know what a punchline is. It's the end of a joke. James Tate Hill, another fabulous guy, he has a brand new book coming out, a memoir about what his life was like while he spent many years pretending not to be blind and hiding the fact that he was functionally blind from most of his friends and family. It's going to be a fantastic memoir. It's coming out next year. James says, few have the vivid imagination of Stephen King, especially that part in On Writing when he says 3 months is plenty of time for a first draft. I think we can all experience that punchline there for a moment. A punch is like a punchline, but it's not funny. It has that same kind of impact as a punch, that same kind of feeling as a punchline, but it's not funny, it's serious. So here is something that Dinty W. Moore has written, quoting Sean Thomas Doherty: why bother? Because right now there is someone out there with a wound in the exact shape of your words. And I think that's beautiful. Why bother? Because right now there is someone out there with a wound in the exact shape of your words. I mean, that's why we're crossing the bridge. We're crossing the bridge so that we can share our words with the people who need to hear them, the people who have the shape of our words is a missing part in them. And our words are going to help fill that missing part. So that's a punch. When you're writing on Twitter, think about how personal do you want to be? So I get relatively personal on Twitter. I don't violate my own privacy because I'm really picky about what I do share, but the topics that I share on, I share all the way and without any shame or embarrassment whatsoever. So I have whoever invented public restroom toilet paper that breaks after 3 squares can burn in hell. You know, pretty personal, but mildly funny. People liked it. And then here, more of a punch. Wellbutrin let me be my real self again. Still happy and sad, no longer in abject despair or numb. Get the right meds, but get meds if you need. This was back when Twitter was 140 characters still. And I'm retweeting someone who wrote, but antidepressants will make me lose my spark, I thought, while unable to eat, leave my apartment, or write just one sentence for 6 months. You know, not everybody is comfortable revealing that level of detail about their personal mental health. And that is fine. If that's not a thing you want to talk about something else. But it is something that I'm comfortable talking about. So I will be as honest and as forthright as I possibly can be on that topic. The other thing to think about on Twitter is get specifically obscure. So there are little corners of Twitter where people are really enjoying jokes that only make sense to a very small group of people. So I'm quoting Iva Chung, who's complaining that somebody who published her work changed her singular they to he or she. And I wrote, insisting they is only plural is the new 2 spaces after a period. And so you have to be in 2 overlapping groups here that are incredibly specific groups. You have to be in the group that knows that 1 or 2 spaces after a period is a big debate in the writing and editing community. And you have to be in the group of people who knows that there is a fight over whether or not to use singular they. And you are on the side of, by all means, people, let's use singular they. If it was good enough for Shakespeare, it's good enough for us. And I love this one that also talks about a similar thing. Why did the non-binary prospector move west in 1849? Because there was gold in them there hills. Thank you. You know, so we're appealing to an incredibly specific audience, an audience that, thank you, an audience that is really going to get it. And it's much better in both your social media and your book to write something that is going to reach the very specific people who need it and not blandly reach everybody, quote unquote. When you're doing Twitter, be funnier, be shorter, be tighter. A candy, something that is sweet, meaningful, or cool that happened today that you'd like to share, maybe a moment of inspiration, a moment of love. A hand, a writing tip, a submission opportunity, something neat that you learned that somebody else would like to know. A punchline, something funny you heard, something funny you overheard. It's fun to participate in existing jokes on Twitter. Every now and then something will go around like ruin a movie in 1 word, and people will post gone with the breaking wind. You know, so it's fun to play in these general things. And a punch, maybe an advice or a quote that changed your writing life or changed your focus in life. Show your writing voice. Always show your writing voice as much as you can on social media, because if you're gonna put the time in on social media, it might as well be practicing what you really like to write. If you are a novelist, I would say write about the writing process rather than writing as your character or in the voice of your actual book, because that just gets a little weird and people don't really want to follow fictional characters on Twitter. But if you are writing nonfiction, what are you writing about? Tell us about it. You know, you don't have to share your whole essay, but tell us you wrote an essay and tell us what it's about. Phrase carefully, use strong words to begin and end your sentences. I usually give a tweet like 2, maybe 3 quick drafts. I mean, this is within a 10-minute span, but I'm not just popping it out and letting it go.
Nate has asked about creating and using your own branded hashtag, which is actually something that I do on Instagram. It's sort of a long game, using a hashtag that relates to you or your writing, I think can help categorize your content for when someone has found you and then they want to look back and find all of the funny things or all of the touching things that you have written. I don't think it's a great strategy for finding new people, but it is a strategy for categorizing.
It's also a better strategy on Instagram than it is on Twitter. These days, because of the way Twitter indexes things, you don't need to be on a hashtag to be seen. They'll find your tweet whether or not you have it hashtagged if they're searching for your thing, unless you have a really specific branded hashtag that really suits your work and really drives people to you. But very few people use many hashtags on Twitter these days. It's really like time sensitive things like an Ask Me Anything or an Ask Agent or a 5 a.m. Writers Club, rather than subject tags. On Instagram, you want to use hashtags like they are subject tags, like they are categorizing your material. On Twitter, it's to take part in a timely event or to take part in a specific joke or trend that's going on right that minute. Ashley, tell me the thing about texts with your friends.
Okay, so Alice was talking about using your writing voice when you are posting on Twitter. I would take this to also say, use your writing voice when you're commenting on people's posts on every platform that you're on, getting into the conversation and engaging, especially on accounts that you would consider your comp accounts or your comparative accounts. So those are writers, those are creators who share similar qualities to the themes that you write about. So for me, there's some memoirists, some body positivity people, and I have notifications on for those people when they post on social media so that I can get into the comments and try to offer something. Now, when you are trying to figure out your writing voice, look at the text chains that you have with your best friends or the family members you're the closest with. Chances are you are really funny and succinct when you are texting with people you are comfortable with. Take a look at that. That is your writing voice. And then that is the personality and that is the structure that then you can bring to social media to send out those little bite-sized parts of your personality and your opinion into the internets.
And it really helps to think of the people on social media as if they are people you already know. You don't have to justify your existence. You can just jump right into the conversation. Megan says she's had a lot of success on Twitter with triumph and overcoming tweets. It's like a mini hero's journey. The formula is X happened, and then I did Y to overcome and became Z. I was this then, and now I am this type of tweet. Weight loss, overcoming illness, making a big change, etc. Got 20,000 followers with this. I would agree. And I've also noticed when I string tweets together for a longer sequence, I very often will summarize what I'm going to say or put the hook in the first tweet and then connect the next series of tweets with but ... or and ... so that it's clear that there is a compelling reason to read on to the next tweet down. And I think that is a little bit more useful than breaking in the middle of sentences, although that's another way to get people to keep reading. Any more questions about writing for Twitter before we segue beautifully into writing for Instagram? Cindy says, my head is exploding, and is this language available on Duolingo? Well, in the email that you get from us tomorrow, it will have links to the recordings from every previous session. And I think it might be worth going back to the beginning and listening to us from the beginning. You know, not to brag, but we explain a lot and we try to get as simple as we can so that you can focus on your writing instead of focusing on manipulating technology.
Yeah, and we really started at the basics. And then we build on it and review during each session. So going back even for people who have been here for all the Zooms, this is our, I don't know, are we at 6 now,
I think
Allison?
we're at 6. I think we're at
I think
episode
this is number 6.
Yeah.
If you go back and listen from the beginning, you might actually get some nuggets out of there that went over your head or that didn't seem relevant at the time. And now you may be able to apply them.
Yeah. Cecilia points out, do you have advice for women of color on Twitter? I've found I need to be a little more careful than assuming friendship. Absolutely. I think that for women and to some extent men of color, and definitely people who are in the LGBTQ community, you may need to be vigorous with your blocking. If anybody trolls you, don't feel like you even need to engage. Just block them and move on. Blockity, block, block, block. They are not worth your time. Having someone troll you is different than having someone vigorously disagree with something you wrote, even if they're shitty about it, if that makes sense. So if someone's just being nasty and abusive, block them, let them go. If you don't have the mental space to deal with them, block them. You are not under any obligation to give anyone your time on social media or any other platform. If, however, you get somebody who, I violently disagree with you, but I have wrote a 15 tweet thread saying so, pat yourself on the back because you touched that person where they live. You poked something important to them. They cared enough to pour out to you why they think you're wrong. You still don't have to engage with them, but don't take it as a negative. Take it as a weird positive that your writing stirred somebody up that bad. And I think that's very true for nasty comments on articles as well. Iabel asks, are political posts a bad idea for writers on Twitter? Not if that's what you want to spend your time doing. Just be aware that if you tweet anything connected to conspiracy theories or you tweet anything connected with the current person in the Oval Office, regardless of whether you are for or against, that will make you more visible to people who enjoy stirring up trouble. You know, and again, if you get tired of it, block it. Cecilia asks, what if they retweet you out of context? I try very hard to tweet stuff where the context is clear in the post itself. It's very rare that I will tweet something like, you know, oh, the Wizard of Oz should die. And it's part of a much longer joke where it's not as negative and horrible as it sounds. So I think it's useful to just think about what is the context of this post and is the context clear in it. But also the vast majority of reasonable people are already on your side, and vigorously use that block button as much as you need to and feel no guilt, no shame. They are not your readers. They are not your audience. And on social media, pushing away the people who are not your people is almost as valuable as bringing in the people who are your people. Focus on your people. Ashley, I'm going to chuck the ball over to you for Instagram.
Great, thank you. Okay, so what Allison shared about the candy, the hand, the punchline, or the punch, this is really an idea that we can extrapolate to every platform. Our posts need to have value if we want people to engage with them. We want the post to make them feel something. So Allison and I both came from a history of performers. She was a circus performer and I was a figure skater and a figure skating coach and choreographer. And what I would say to my athletes when I was teaching performance for 2 decades was, people watch figure skating because they want to feel something. Okay, they want to feel something from that performance. And people scroll mindlessly on social media because they want to find something that makes them pause and that pulls them in. So there are a lot of different ways we can do this, and we don't have to do all of them. Find what works best for you. Brooke is so funny, and most of the things that she offers are punchlines. Okay, everybody's going to find a different, just based on what you write and your personality, you're going to have a different approach. So when you're looking at these, figure out which ones are the ones that you already resonate with, that you already have history posting in that style. And then let's just try to make that stronger. You don't have to do things that are out of your comfort zone. Okay, so When we are writing for Instagram, it's the home of the mini essay now. And it could be like Allison said, just 150 words. It could be even shorter than that. It could be just like 40 words and it gets right to the point. And the image pulls them in because it's a beautiful, clear image. And then whatever you say there makes the person pause and go, oh. What we want people to do on Instagram is to like, comment, share, or save, or hopefully all four. Now, in the first few minutes that a post goes on Instagram, just so everybody's reminded of how the algorithm works, it is shown to a select fraction of your followers, probably random, probably different people each time. And Instagram takes a look and says, okay, here's a piece of content. They have no way to automatically vet your content for quality, and they want the content of the highest quality to be what's pushed out on their platform so that people will spend a lot of time scrolling and will go through as many ads as possible, because that's how they make money, getting our eyes on their ads and getting us to click on their ads. So when your post goes out, if the first few people it is shown to engage with your post, then Instagram will send it out to more people. And they can engage in any of those ways, even if they don't like or comment, but if they go to your profile and then start scrolling through and tapping on your different posts, that counts as engagement for the Instagram algorithm too. So some of it's like invisible engagement that maybe you don't see, but your post will be shown to more people. Then at that next bubble, they push it out to more people. They're going to see what they do. So we want to have every post we share be something that a wide audience would resonate with. So, we could just put out, how social media started was like, a picture of your kid's birthday. So like your grandma can see it. Those are not the kinds of things that are going to be saved or shared a whole lot on Instagram. So we have to think about quality over quantity. It's much better to post just once a week to Instagram and post something that people will possibly save or possibly share with a friend or share to their stories. People will share posts that give them the words that they didn't have. So something that makes them feel like, oh yeah, I've always been thinking about this, but I've never been able to put it in these words. This is where a post that has activism or some politics or any advocacy work can be something that's then highly shareable because they want to put it in their story. For example, back in June and July, when some Instagram content creators were really explaining what it means to defund the police, those were posts that were shared very widely because they're taking this thing that's maybe misunderstood and then outlining actually what it means. And a lot of people, I think, even though they didn't know what it meant before, they were so grateful to understand, and then they were willing to share it. So that's the way that's one of the reasons that people would share. Okay, they want to feel to their audience like, look, I found this smart content or this funny content, and now I want to push it out to you, even though it's not something that they created themselves.
And so, Ashley, I just want to jump in and clarify that when we say share on Instagram, you can't share like you share on Facebook or retweet like you do on Twitter. But if you use the paper airplane directly below the post, you can either add the post to your stories where it will pop up in your stories, which is a really nice way to put content in your stories without having to create it yourself. You can also send it via direct message to somebody else in your inbox. So use that paper airplane and that gives you the little options.
Yep. And if you go into your Instagram analytics, and we have talked about Instagram analytics on other calls, it will show you how many times your post was saved. I think that was your post was saved or shared. Even though that is not something that will show up to your audience, I think that that's something that Instagram weights very heavily in the algorithm. So even if you don't have a ton of likes and comments, but if 80 people shared your post, even with one friend, Instagram tags that as a post that has very helpful content because people want to spread it.
I find too that the content that is I hate calling myself a brand, but the content that is my on brand content that is most tightly connected to the book I'm writing and the book I'm releasing is stuff that is my writing advice. And that is the stuff that tends to get saved and shared the most. So you're likely to find that if you're writing posts about what you really care about and that your book is also related to, that's where you're going to learn who cares about it as much as you do.
Absolutely. And the things that are being shared the most widely for me right now are about rehabbing a shabby marriage and trying to keep monogamy hot. Those are the things. And I can tell too, when people are tagging, a lot of people are tagging their partners on it. Like a husband tagging a wife or vice versa. So even if they share with one person, it does really help the algorithm. So I took several posts here from people who volunteered. We had a ton of volunteers in the binder for me to take a look at posts and then rework them just a little bit. I want to put a disclaimer on here. I didn't put a ton of time into like design quality. I want you guys to take the concepts more here for how we could take this great post and then make it something that people would be more likely to share or save or even screenshot and then post it on Twitter and tag you, or post it on Facebook and tag you, giving information that people would want for themselves and to share with their audience. So this first one is from Kima. First one. Okay.
Kima Waterfield, wonderful writer.
She is a wonderful writer. And Kima is talking here about the dedication in her book. And Kima, do you want to unmute right now too? Just to say hi so we can talk about this back and forth. Hi. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for the vulnerability and the willingness to like volunteer for this. Okay. So Kima takes a screenshot of, so this is at the beginning of your memoir, right, Kima? Talking about the unceded land that you've lived on through your life?
Yeah, it's a standalone land acknowledgement.
Okay, which is so beautiful. So thoughtful. I mean, it gives me chills, like the beauty in your writing here. And so this is the original post here from Kima. What I suggested here for changes is you can have this screenshot of your book, of the page in there, but I would make it something more shareable. And this was on Indigenous Peoples Day that you posted this, right?
Yeah.
Which is perfect timing for anybody who's interested in this kind of activism to find this post. And I didn't look back to your hashtags, but I'm sure that if you search Indigenous Peoples Day or unceded land, that there'd be some other relevant hashtags that would come up with it. If we make it slides like this, like a post carousel where you can put several pictures at a time, and then we put in a link, and I'm going to make a note about this link. You cannot click on this, but I would recommend, this is the one that I have used to find out who the land belongs to, where I grew up in Canada. And there are some spots in the United States that work as well here.
I used it too for Alaska.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Because it is a pretty good site, the way that it's like an interactive map. And letting people know how they can figure out whose land they're living on and even what that means, I think is really helpful. The first time I saw a post like this, maybe a couple of years ago when I started following more racial justice activists on Instagram, I was blown away because it's not something I had ever even heard of. And it was something I shared in my story then, because I was like, okay, this is new to me, but I feel like this is something I wish I would have known earlier. So I'm going to share that now on my story. So just making this a little bit more shareable as far as like making it an activist post, because I think that's what it has the potential to do. You have this awareness, you are bringing that awareness to light in your book, in a standalone land acknowledgement. Doing something like this can make it more shareable. Now, I want everybody to know when you put a link in a quote card or in an Instagram caption or in a comment, it is not clickable. The only thing that is clickable on Instagram is your link in bio, is your website. So we recommend using Linktree or a similar service so that then, Kima, you could have on here to find out whose land you live on, link in bio, and then have this nativeland.ca as one of your top links, and you can move around the order of them. So when you post this, I would put it at the very top or near the top of your links, so then people could go to it. And then when they get good information from that website that you directed them to, they're more likely to come back to you. And if they click right within Instagram, they actually do have to come back through your profile before they look at anything else on Instagram. So that's a really nice feature that Instagram has on the app, is that if you link out of Instagram, it makes the person back up through your story or through your profile to get back onto Instagram to scroll other things.
And Ashley, I think too that because this is a carousel post, Kima could also put her original photo that shows the actual introduction as the next post in this carousel, or even I would probably put it between on this Indigenous Peoples Day and HTTPS and the link.
Absolutely.
And yes, good catch, people in the chat. It should be who's the other who's, but we're just going for impact right now.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah. Okay. So that is, Kima, do you have any questions about that?
When you're making this carousel, are you just creating separate quote cards and then adding them like a series of photos? Okay,
exactly.
Cool. Just checking on
Yeah.
that.
And
Okay.
when I'm doing that, I use WordSwag. I will just have the same font and I will just go hit save and then go back, change the words, hit save, go back, change the words. And then when they're all saved in my camera roll, then I'll go into Instagram and do the carousel post and just add them.
Just have them ready to go. Yeah.
Just
It's
have
the
them ready to go.
same as you would do with Canva, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
This is not something I do a whole lot of, but it felt like an important time to do this.
Yes,
and it's beautiful because it ties into the common cultural consciousness. It resonates with a particular day, and it is something you truly and genuinely believe is important that you want to share with your readers. And this is a bridge to the other readers who feel that that stuff is genuinely important and needs to be shared. And it also brings you to readers who may not know that yet, but who will resonate with it when they find out.
Right. Oh, I forget. This is something people will find later too if they're looking, right? Right.
Exactly.
Good point. Yeah.
Yes, and you can reshare it at any time. If any, if there's news of like a pipeline protest, there's a lot of conflict on the east coast of Canada with First Nations tribes right now. Anytime it's in the news, you can reshare this to your story, or you can post these quote cards again with something that's more timely. Because this is something, I mean, it's right in your bio, right? Like this is something that's important to you. You're not just jumping on a trend. So you are an asset to people to understand more about this. Okay.
Ashley, I think we've got time for one more before we do breakout time.
Okay, that's what I just saw on the clock. I will try to squeeze in more than one, but I'm going to go super fast. But you just tell me when it's time. Okay, so this next one is Jacqueline Greenberg. And Jacqueline shares a lot of stories about her son, Henry, and his special needs. And I was really touched by this post. Jacqueline, if you're here, you are here. If you're still here, can you unmute if you want to? And join me here. So with this, I loved this post because I was so happy that you and Henry have a doctor who really connects with him and really validates him when you guys have your appointments. And I know that hasn't always been the case. So I was thinking, and these are ugly quote cards, we would have a better color for this, but what if we did a carousel type post for this too, and made it like a service piece for other parents who are looking for a good provider for their special needs child.
This
And
also then becomes an article that you could pitch to mass media to write and sell.
absolutely. So these are just things that I pulled from your quote card and your caption, just to like, because I don't know all of the things that are important, but I just pulled this out. I got an idea from you. And so if I had a niece or nephew who had special needs, I would say to my brother or my sister, listen, when you're picking doctors, make sure you're looking for these things, right? Because these things would stick in my mind if it was this kind of format.
Does it make any sense to try and make it broader?
I think you could do a mix of broad and really narrow, because the most narrow things, the most niche things are going to find the people who are like, oh my God, I wish I knew that. Or, oh, I just started looking for a doctor. And yes, that's why that doctor rubbed me the wrong way, because they didn't do these things. So I think going narrow, even though it's counterintuitive, is something that pays off. Okay, and Jacqueline, DM me if you want more. I'm going to jump here because I changed a caption here. Is it Miriam? Is that how I say it? So Miriam has a book coming out, Red. And this was her photo. And then this is her caption. This is the picture of someone who started writing books in 2007. The first one was never brought to life, though I spent 4 years on it. So she's talking about discouragement and persistence. If we could make it more of a coaching type post, and Allison does this really well in a lot of her posts about writing, is to say, so I edited and moved around her words just a little bit here. And then if we could add a bit of a list, make it a little bit of a list in a service piece. When I wanted to quit, here are the things I did instead. Okay, like, did she reach out to a writer's group? Did she take time away from that manuscript that had all of those edits that were so hard to handle? Put these things in it. And then I kept her last lines, because it takes everything. The whole house had to be burning down around you to finish a book. It takes everything. I gave it everything, and today it's here. Because that, like, oh, I felt that. And
that's a punch. That's a punch,
isn't it? And then if we could make this just a little bit more relatable to other people, because I do care about Miriam's writing journey, but if I could know, okay, what are the specific things she did when she wanted to quit? Because all of us want to quit like 100 times a year. I think that would be something that people would save, definitely, and maybe even share on their story or with a writing friend.
Yeah. So we are going to send you guys into some breakout rooms, which is a thing that we really like to do every meeting. You, of course, do not have to go to a breakout room. Nobody has to go to a breakout room. You can stay in here and chat with me and Ashley instead. But if you can, people have found it very meaningful to get to meet other writers. You're going to get about 5 or 6 minutes in the breakout room. Just introduce yourselves, say what you're writing, and say hi to the other people, maybe exchange social information with them so that you guys have a chance to find each other in social world as well. So you're going to get an invitation to a breakout room, and you'll be there for about 6 minutes, and then we'll bring you on back to wrap up the meeting. While you guys were in breakout rooms, we had a really nice conversation with Miriam, where we were saying, Miriam was saying that she sometimes feels like, well, what right do I have to like preach on my Instagram? Are people going to think, well, who does she think she is? And we said, well, wouldn't you cheer for your friends if they were sharing their journey with you? Even if you didn't care about the particular nature of the journey, you would still appreciate them doing the journey. So I think that's really relevant.
And on that note, just to add one quick thing, if we censor ourselves what we want to share with our readers on social media until we have a book, or only share it in our books because we're worried what our friends and family and that person from second grade who your friend who follows you on Instagram is going to think, we are going to be silencing ourselves, and the readers who are looking for our story and our words are going to find someone else in the meantime.
Yeah.
We need to be ready and willing and courageous enough to share our words before an agent signs us, before we have the book deal, before we have the pre-orders open, because people are hungry for encouragement and laughs and information now, today. So don't save your best stuff. Start putting it out there for people.
Use it to build your writer's bridge. Tomorrow, you will receive an email. The email will have in it a link to the recording of this session, which the amazing Ashley will edit beautifully. It will also have a link to a social media sign-up sheet that is a Google Doc. Don't spam your fellow writers, but please do enter any information that you would like to share and follow other people as you see them. It will also include a link to the comment pods sign up if you would like to find out more about comment pods. And if you click on that link, there is a full explanation of comment pods before you sign up. So clicking on the link does not commit you if you just want to have more information. People are really having a nice time in the comment pods. It makes being on Instagram feel like chatting to your friends instead of screaming into the void. So we really appreciate it. Ashley, closing words before we say goodbye?
Everyone, think about something you can share that is funny or helpful. Remember the candy, the hand, the punch, or the punchline, and put it on your favorite platform. I use Facebook like it's Twitter. I put those kinds of things as status updates on Facebook. Just start putting, you can always delete something if you want, right? Just try putting things out there. If nobody engages with it, maybe it didn't get bumped out with the algorithm. Like, you know, it's not that people looked at it and said, I don't like that. Maybe no one actually saw it, which happens like really randomly with posts. But put out things that are fun to create, that are fun to put out there, and then let that next idea bubble up.
Yeah. Share yourself, share your world, share what you care about. And Brooke, share your dick jokes. I'm going to unmute everybody for a beautiful goodbye to each other. So bye, everybody. Thanks for coming today.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye, Barbara. Bye.
Bye to my neighbor next door. But
Bye, Megan.
Bye, Glenn. Glad you were here.
Bye.
Thank you to see your face here, Megan.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Eileen.
Bye, Eileen. Bye, Glenn.
Bye.
I'm just checking out everyone's faces before you're all gone.
Yeah.